Khang, you ready?
It's a long open.
Yeah, it is. Gator won the toss and deferred. I will receive. Ready?
All right, Doug, you go first. We saw the college football rankings happen last night, which was expected, the top four, in some order of that, right? Georgia, of course, being number one. But outside the local teams, who's the college football party playoff crasher you would root for?
Okay, so, right, we're used to Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and then others rotate through. I'm being very selfish here. But if I don't speak on my own behalf, who will? I want the Power 5 conferences to all survive. And I think the conference that needs the appearance the most is the Pac-12 to survive. The problem is the two teams that I would think have the best shot are two teams that are leaving. So I'm going to put myself in a weird place and say if I would pick a party crasher outside a local team that I'd root for, it's Oregon. Because I think if Oregon goes to the college football playoff and has a degree of success there, it helps the Pac-12, at least those that are left. And maybe I'm the only one that wants the regionality to survive, but that's what I'm rooting for.
I'm kind of torn on this. I'm going between Oregon and Ole Miss. Ole Miss could be really interesting if they beat Alabama this week. Then, that would be 3 losses for Alabama, right? Be 3? Yeah, it'd be 3.
That's right. I know it's hard to say. Alabama, 3 losses.
It really is hard to say. I can't believe I said that out loud. But, that's a reality if Ole Miss wins this week. And Ole Miss is 8-1 right now. They control their own destiny. You want to get there? Beat Alabama. Then you've got a couple of winnable games after that with Arkansas and I think Mississippi State. So I kind of want to go that route. I appreciate the Oregon thought, and I had actually written it down. I changed my mind as I gave this a little more thought. Oregon, I just don't trust any of the Pac-12 teams to really match up and have any kind of splash. Lane Kiffin, for all his foibles, is actually a pretty good coach.
I know.
And I just think it'd be remarkable if he's able to do it and then takes the Auburn job right after. But I'm rooting for Ole Miss.
Okay.
It's funny. You guys picked the 2 teams that I was torn between as well, Oregon and Ole Miss. Ole Miss factor for me is Lane Kiffin, not because I think he's a good coach, because I just think he's entertaining as hell. That guy always he says some funny stuff, does some funny things, but you're right, he is a pretty damn good coach, it looks like. Oregon, you're totally right, Doug. Just to get the West back involved, the Pac-12, Oregon is a fun university to watch. I love the uniform change. Everyone hated it from the beginning. I think most people are starting to understand why they do it, and it is fun. In the end, I give the slight edge to Oregon. That's who I'm rooting for. All right, speaking of the college football playoff rankings, guys, with Bama basically out of the picture, they might have a 3rd loss, what we're bringing up, which is crazy. Will we see some players opt out for the rest of the season?
I just presented an option where, yeah, you could see it. If they lose to Ole Miss, I could absolutely see players just not. You know what? I'm gonna bide my time and wait for the draft combine and wait for the draft. I can absolutely see it happening. I could certainly see it happen for the bowl game if they're not in the college football playoff, and it doesn't look like they're in the college football playoff. So, yeah, I think it's unheard of under Nick Saban, you would think, and yet, nope, it's right up there.
It's one of my least favorite things that's going on in college football, and I can't really blame the individuals, although you make a commitment to your team, you finish out the season, and those guys are helping you be successful. All your teammates help you be successful as well. Your presence helps them be successful. I'm big on finishing out the commitment. However, it is kind of entertaining to see Alabama go through many of the things that the rest of us have gone through the last few years because they haven't had to deal with it. And I'm sure Saban will be outspoken when it does happen to them. I don't see any reason why it won't happen to them.
I don't think Saban would take this lightly, and I think the players know that. I'm all for the individual doing what's best for him and his family, but I got a feeling that we don't see it with the Bama players. That they look at Saban like, dude, I don't want that wrath. Like I like.
But if they're leaving. They don't have to deal with that wrath anymore.
True, but I just got this feeling they wouldn't do it.
There's one thing that could also keep them there in playing, and that's it. They got the rivalry game against Auburn. which is a big deal. And there's a lot of players from the state of Alabama that are on that Alabama team. So,
all right, guys, should Hendon Hooker be out of the Heisman race after that poor showing versus Georgia?
No, because it's so much dependent on what happens with everybody else, right? There are huge games coming up for other candidates. What if C.J. Stroud bombs against Michigan? What if Caleb Williams bombs against UCLA? What if Blake Corum doesn't do much against Ohio State? Everybody else has to have that marquee moment in that game. I mean, Bryce Young. I don't think because his team lost. I don't think he should be out. Was he?
He had an amazing play.
An amazing play. That touchdown pass
against LSU.
Fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I don't.
It's like a signature play to win a Heisman, and it's not going to be.
I don't rule Hendon Hooker out because there's too much football to be played, and others will. I don't want to say eliminate themselves, but they might not boost their resume, and they might have a moment that doesn't boost the resume, like what happened with Hooker.
Yeah, it shouldn't. And by the way, he still completed 70% of his passes against Georgia.
Right.
But Georgia, they're so stout against the run, and that's another part of Hooker's game. He couldn't run against them. He averaged less than a yard per carry on 18 carries. So that was part of it. But no, it shouldn't. And yet, all you got to do is look back to last year and see that it cost Kenneth Walker III. Didn't play. He was hurt against Ohio State, carried the ball like 5 times, and then he was done. Didn't play again in that game. But that cost him. It shouldn't have, but it did. I sure hope it doesn't cost Hendon Hooker because he's had a hell of a season and was able to throw the ball a little bit against Georgia.
I don't think it will. And because Doug, you're right. There's other guys other games to be played where they could play poorly as well. I mean, this Heisman race has been up and down all year. It's Hooker has been the latest one that you thought, all right, this guy's locked in, but he's not out of it at all. And I think with Vegas odds, he's still second, I think. So even Vegas doesn't think he's done. All right, MACtion. They get national TV every week, but they get empty stadiums every week. Is this good or bad for the MAC?
I think that it's more good than bad. The fact is that they've got the national spotlight. And if people want to watch college football and they'll stumble upon it, they're going to get more fans because of it. If they have packed stadiums on Saturday, but you've got to go to a streaming service or an app to pull up the game because it's not on one of the major networks, I don't think it does them any good. So I think it does more good than bad, even if nobody's there. At least they're on TV, and they can promote that they're on TV every week.
It's terrible for the students. It's awful. Those stadiums are empty on Tuesday and Wednesday nights, but that TV money keeps those programs alive, man. I mean, we were talking about that. First of all, they get exposure because they're the only games on most of these Tuesday and Wednesdays. The CBS sports deal gives every MAC school $600,000 a year. The ESPN deal is like another $100,000 a year. And that's money that they probably could never recoup in ticket sales if they played traditional Saturday noon or 3:30 or whatever. So, it probably keeps those programs afloat. Plus that exposure last night I'm watching, so-and-so transfer from Ohio State, so-and-so transfer from Iowa.
Yeah.
It gives exposure to schools that allow these transfer portal guys to go get playing time.
It's absolutely a good thing. I mean, you got to deal with the empty stadiums. They're most likely empty anyways, so get the money that the schools need. And the number one thing, Doug, you mentioned as well, the exposure for the players. That's big, man. If you're going to a small school and you probably already know that the fan base is going to be lackluster, to say the least, at least get on TV, get your tape and film out there, and that's something you can use for the next level, hopefully. Okay, real simple. Fix the Big Ten West.
Yeah, it's simple, right, Doug?
All right, so Matt ruled in Nebraska. How about that? I think Jim Leonard belongs at Wisconsin. They're 3-1 since he took over. He gets the culture. He knows what made Wisconsin good, right? I think Illinois, which has beefed up their facilities, their football building, needs to circle back to Memorial Stadium and somehow, some way, upgrade that facility. I think it last got upgraded in 2008. But watching that Michigan State-Illinois game, you got Illinois that's in the running for the college football playoff, like literally with a back that could make a statement and win the Heisman last Saturday, and their student section in that north end zone was like 2/3 full. And I'm thinking, how is it? How is that possible? I don't know how you can. You can't force people to go to the games, but Illinois, with Bielema, you have all the reason to be there. I couldn't believe you got to get the students in there and at least take up all the student tickets.
Well, with Illinois, they're boring, and Bielema is the Wisconsin disciple of Barry Alvarez. When he was there, I guess. So it's just boring, and I get why maybe students aren't going to get there. They should. They were having a really good season, but here's where you can spice things up. If Kirk Ferentz leaves Iowa, Brett Bielema goes to Iowa. And then you start getting a little rivalry between those two. You got to spark things up a little bit.
That would be a rivalry.
I like your idea of Matt Rule. You get a former NFL coach. That adds some spice. He goes to Nebraska. If Jim Leonard wants to stay at Wisconsin, I think that's good too. But the biggest fix is the easiest one that's actually going to happen. At least it seems like it's going to happen. And that is you bring over UCLA and USC. And then the rumors of Oregon and Washington follow suit. All of a sudden, I mean, if they were to add all 4 of those teams in the next couple of years, how many of those teams right now are in the top 10?
In the top 10 or in the top 20? I think all 4 are ranked. But I don't know why it needs fixing. You saw those artist renderings of Northwestern's new stadium? You saw those artist renderings.
Yeah. You're right. Done.
2 words, guys. Uncle Urban. That's it, man. Just Uncle Urban, enter the Big Ten West, please, for my entertainment's sake. All you basically got to do is win 1 or 2 games, and you get a Big Ten West team possibly in the college football playoff. Uncle Urban can do that.
It's a great idea.